Welcome to Brentwood Inspired Living Center. Our community began in 1989 as a small worldwide unity book study group, and we've continued the momentum as an ever-evolving spiritual community. Each Sunday, you will find dynamic thought leaders delivering inspiring messages and talented musicians sharing sound healing through their melody. Here, we embrace ancient spiritual traditions, universal truths, and emerging wisdom. Let's check out this Sunday message. We're so grateful you've joined us. So good morning, beloveds. My name is Amy Van Ling, and I am deeply grateful to be in service as spiritual director at this precious community. We are a unique model of Sunday service, Sunday inspiration. We are many voices, many thought leaders, mystics, world changers, and amazing magical musicians sharing inspiration, wisdom, love, all the goodness into the world. And we allow space here for the unfoldment of wisdom, awareness, love, compassion, all the good stuff too. We allow it to emerge and expand, and we're interested in exploring, liberating, limiting belief systems by knowing thyself, which is part of our theme this month, so that we can, be purposeful, live on purpose, and radiate peace and joy into the world through our thoughts and our actions. So thank you for joining us here in this field with beautiful intention. We warmly welcome you into our spiritual community. Thank you for saying yes, the sacred yes, choosing to fill your spiritual love tank with soul nourishment, I like to call it. Beginning your week on Sunday with fresh ideas and new perspectives and new energy, just a renewal. It's really important for us to have that reboot at least once a week, maybe every morning. So good morning, beloveds. Let me see who's here. Nancy's here. She says, good morning. I'm really looking forward to all of the inspiration coming from you all. Thank you for being here for us. Jennifer is here. She says, was reminded recently of a book called Whatever Arises, Love That by Matt Kahn. I love that book and I love Matt. Thank you for that. Beautiful. Welcome in, everybody. We welcome you with full hearts. We're so grateful for your presence. Remember to embrace everyone energetically as they log in. This is a way that we can cultivate that vibration of love and just share in that expansive energy. It works. It's true. It's there. Feel into it. Carol says, I'm so grateful you are available online. It would be hard if we had to travel to the same physical space. Yes. I'm so grateful we are available online. I love our model because we're so available. And we love that because we appreciate being able to share into the world. It really brings us so much joy. So thank you for participating in this co-creation. If you're here, you are participating. Brings us so much joy. So thank you for participating in. Let me mute Jan. I think she's got some other devices going. Hi, Jan. Welcome in. So if you are joining us this morning for the very first time, we're so glad that you're here. We welcome you. Check our website for ways to connect with us. You can find my email, Jan's email. She's our board president. You can find the links into the Zoom groups during the week. We have discussion groups, book groups. We also have in-person groups. So lots for everybody. And we welcome you. We welcome you in. If you're watching the replay later on YouTube, thank you. You too are part of co-creating this community, and we're so thankful for that. If you would like the link to our website, it should be right below the video that you're watching. So welcome in, everybody. Welcome to February. Our theme this month is Sailing the Sea of Self-Inquiry on this spiritual pilgrimage we're on, the journey of the soul. Kind of deep, Self-inquiry is one of the deep questions of life. Know thyself. Who am I? For me, it's always, sort of the natural progression from that question to like the I am that I am. And then it begs the question, well, what is I am that I am? So these perplexing, fascinating, deep questions we get to explore in this life. And the journey of self-inquiry is possibly the most important, I might venture to say. So welcome into our theme. sometimes it's about really peeling away who we are not to really discover who we are, right? So I really appreciate this theme, and I'm so excited to jump into it this month. And today we begin with love, 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 because as I said, well, we just love love around here. And this week, of course, is Valentine's Day coming up, and so we have our Dr. SHANI Robins. He is our go-to for he's our wisdom expert. He's our expert on all things love and partnership and navigating relationships wisely. And that is the important part of that, navigating relationships wisely. So thank you so much, SHANI, for being with us. It's truly with deep love and gratitude that I welcome back Dr. SHANI Robins. He is just such an important part of our community, and we're thankful. We're thankful for you. Today, I have no doubt we will have a very lively discussion because the title, the topic is so intriguing. Calling both wise and foolish love, love is like calling both a jet plane and a skateboard transportation. Don't you love that? I am very excited for this deep dive and really good topic for self-inquiry. So thank you, SHANI, for always just, bringing your authenticity, your passion, your wisdom. We're so grateful for you and thankful. And he's got the heart in the background and the balloon you see. So he's all ready for the, we're all ready.
I have props.
You have props. You do have props. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for being you and saying yes to us. We're so grateful for
Thank
you.
you.
Tremendously. We have our soulful and spectacular Asher Stern. He is with us today. He's sharing sensational sounds that vibrate out of him, and we're just completely blessed by your presence and essence, Asher. He's a gift. He's zooming in with us from Santa Cruz. Check him out online because you can find out where he's rolling around the Northern California area, and you can find his music live here and there. Thank you, Asher, for sharing the gift of you with us. We are always so grateful to have you. And we have Jan here online. I don't know if you can see her on the screen at the moment, but she's here with us to share our selected inspirational reading and our prayer of plenitude. Thank you, Jan, for always sharing your loving energy with us and just your beautiful dedication to our community. It's Pat. Pat and Jan are here. Yay. Okay. They must have done a really quick, interesting switch because Pat was at her house earlier and now she's at Jan's. I'm impressed. See, I'm talking about dedication here. Okay, everybody, good morning. Thank you. Let me see. Everybody is logging in here. So beautiful to see you here this morning. Karen's here. She says, hi, all, better late than never. Absolutely. You're not late. We're here. We're ready to roll. Marianne's here. She says, good morning, beloveds. I love love. Yes, I love love. Hi, Ron. Ron is here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and tuning within, committing your energy to activating and embodying love in the world. It's very important. We welcome you into this space. And so I would like you to, at this moment, tune into your inner space, your center, your calm, peaceful space, so we can feel into our purpose, the purpose of our community, which is to be a safe environment for all people to consciously explore their spiritual path, recognize their oneness with God, source, spirit, gain inspiration, insight, and wisdom to share with the world. So thank you for tuning into this purpose with us and being here. We are going to begin with our community song, and I invite you to sing along at home. Let it all out. Just let it go. So I'm going to hand the screen over to Asher to bring us into that space this morning. Thank you, Asher.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? All right, cool. I'm going to do the yours. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Now earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath and fire, my spirit now earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath and fire, my spirit now earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath and fire, my spirit now earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath and fire, my spirit now earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath and fire, my spirit.
One of our favorites, indeed. Thank you. It always reminds me of a hike now because I was singing that on a hike once. So you know how you like solidify that into your system. Thank you for that, Asher. We appreciate you so much. I'm going to hand the screen over to Pat now. She has our inspirational reading for us this morning, some community announcements. Thank you, Pat.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So we begin with a few announcements. Be sure to stay for Shani's workshop after the service today, beginning at 11:40. We always learn so much about ourselves. Here's a request going out to our community. If you're willing and able to offer your home for our third Saturday gatherings coming up in 2024, please let Jan or Nancy know. Thanks to Kelly Turner, Dave Krotsky, Gayla Altoff, Jan Knight, Karen Mingus, Ginny Burns, and Christy Costa for continuing to share their beautiful homes with us. Mark your calendars for this coming Saturday, February 17 at 11 o'clock, as we will be back at Kelly Turner's house in Brentwood for our third Saturday community circle and potluck. Come one and all. And please mark your calendars for our annual meeting to be held in person the first Sunday in March, March 3rd, 2024, after the Sunday service in the West Island Room at the Antioch Community Center. Service begins at 10 o'clock and the annual meeting will start at 11:30, to be followed by a catered lunch. We expect a full house, so come and get the latest on what's being planned for 2024. And your board would like to invite anyone who's interested in serving as a board member for the coming year to get in touch with Ron Vieira or Jan Knight to find out more about what it means to be a BILC Board of Trustees member, the commitment it requires, and how you would be of service to our community. A huge heartfelt thank you to all who have joined the board members in supporting the Van Ling Family Fund each month, beginning November 2023, from now until June 2024. With your generous contribution to the fund, we tripled the board's $200 commitment and send the VLFF 635 more at the end of January. Please remember to submit your contribution by the third week of the month and indicate that it's for the Van Ling Family Fund in the comment section of Zelle, PayPal, or if you write a check. If you do write a check, please make it out to the Brentwood Inspired Living Center and indicate in the note for VLFF. Much gratitude to all. Also, if you've not done so already, we'd like to invite you to consider setting up your monthly contribution commitment to our community. Perhaps sending it automatically monthly via Zelle or PayPal or by check. It's your contributions that provide the revenue for speakers and musicians, our spiritual director, our rental space, our storage unit, our celebrations, and all the other activities we offer each month. We are so very, very grateful for all of you, how you give and how you bless us with your time, talents, and resources. And thank you to all for keeping your calendars up to date and for your participation in all our activities. Consider inviting a friend to join you. Happy Valentine's Week. That's it. Okay, now we're moving on to our inspirational reading. In February, our topic is self-inquiry, and I have written a little piece. We'll call it, the name of this piece is "We Are All Bilingual." Here's a story about Michelle the mouse. Michelle was leading her 3 children through the house when they turn a corner and they see a cat. The cat starts walking toward the mice revealing its sharp teeth. Michelle, to protect her children, backs up, raises up on her hind legs, and raises up her claws, and as loud a voice as she can say, she says, "Ruff, ruff, ruff." The cat gets scared and runs off. Michelle turns to her little ones and says, "Now, babies, never underestimate the power of learning more than one language." We are already bilingual. We have 2 languages speaking to us all the time. The language of our conditioning we learned as youngsters, and the innate language of our soul. Our conditioned mind leads us quickly to feelings and actions seemingly out of our control. This mind is often habitual. It judges, complains, and compares with no peace. Our soul mind, however, has to be uncovered, when then our heart can open to feelings of compassion, understanding, and kindness. Understanding the oneness of all, the peace that passeth understanding. We are bilingual. So how do we choose the language of the soul? By self-inquiry, by being curious. And here's a quote from the book, The Way of Mastery, The Way of the Heart, Jesus channeled by Jeshua. Quote, "Turn your attention upon your own mind, your own behavior, to study it, consider it, to feel it, to breathe the light of spirit through it, to retrain the mind so that it assumes complete responsibility in each moment." Unquote. It's the path to peace. We are all bilingual. It's our decision on which language to choose. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. That was wonderful. I love that story. That was yours? Yes, you wrote that. Thank you for that. We appreciate you. Okay, I'm going to hand the screen back over to Asher for our next song this morning. Thank you, Asher.
All right. I don't really have a title for this one yet. It's kind of new, but yeah, here it goes. Baby, how you feeling lately? This world is so crazy, it's blowing my mind. There's people dying on the daily for someone else's hatred. Everybody's getting faded while the politicians choose what's right for you, for me, for everybody. How did it all become so askew? And how can we all just get back to the truth? Will we take a step now, darling, move ahead and trust the whisper of your soul. Take a breath now, darling, breathe it in deep. Just release and let it all out. Let it go, let it go, let it go. struggles on the daily, and getting filled up with some hatred. It's got you questioning what's right. You for me, for everybody. The one is so divided, cause I know if we united, that have more power than they can control. For you, for me, for everybody. How did it all become so askew? And how can we all just get back to the truth? Where we take a step now, darling, move ahead. Just release and let it all out. Take a breath now, darling, breathe it in deep. Just release and let it all out. Let it go, let it go, yeah, let it go.
What a beautiful song. Thank you, Asher. So much love coming in for your reading, Pat, and for the song, Asher. Thank you. We are
Thank
just
you.
in a great space this morning. Wow, beautiful. Okay, I'm going to hand the screen back over to you, Pat, for our blessing of abundance this morning. Thank you, beloved.
Thank you, Asher, so much. Let it go. That's when we all get caught up in the drama of life and things that are happening. Let it go, let it go. And so now we're going to take a couple of deep breaths before we get into this this opening up to this knowing about the abundance we have in life. So let's take a couple of deep breaths with me. I invite you now to move with me into a space of oneness with spirit. We quiet our minds and open to the great realization of an abundant universe. We connect with an inner stillness that is grounded in the divine flow of giving and receiving. We practice gratitude for all that life gives us and accept there is more coming our way. We align and operate from our divine nature to give freely from a compassionate heart to ourselves and others, assured we are never void. We set our intention to engage in right action that attracts opportunities to prosper. We are each a very grateful spirit expanding in this human life. We are gratefully succeeding in stepping forward into greater good. And so it is.
Thank you so much, Pat, for bringing us into that space. We're appreciative. I'm going to hand the screen back over to Asher for our final song this morning. Thank you, Asher.
All right. This is an old song I probably wrote when I was like 19 or something. And I haven't played it in a long time, except for a couple times earlier. So we'll see how it goes. But it's an open tuning here. Around again, with my feelings. One minute I'm happy, and the next I feel I'm gonna explode. The world is here, and we'll roll on air. together, why can't we all just get along today? Glass of water, yeah, is half full, yeah. The grass is plenty green where I'm at. Maybe, just maybe I will find a peace of mind in the stillness that surrounds me, yeah. Reflection bound to happen. It's bound to happen. It's bound to happen.
I always want to really clap loudly, but it would
That
not
would
work
hurt
with.
everybody's ears, yeah.
Thank you, Asher. Wow, that was beautiful. Wow, there is just so
Thanks.
much beauty this morning opening us up. Thank you both, Asher and Pat. We are so grateful to both of you for bringing your vibration into this space this morning for us. We're grateful for you. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you again soon. Much love, blessings, mwah,
Thanks for
peace.
having me.
Yeah, bye guys.
Bye, everybody.
Love you.
Love you too.
Well, it is with my utmost joy and gratitude to spend time with Dr. Shani Robbins, one of my favorites. And thank you. Thank you, dear one, for being with us, sharing your presence. Yeah, so for those of you just getting to know Shani, I'm going to let you know a little bit about him. Dr. Shani Robbins pioneered the field of wisdom therapy in 1998. He is a licensed psychologist by the California Board of Psychology and is the founder and director of the Wisdom Therapy Institute since 2000. He is an instructor at Stanford University Medical School's Health Improvement and Be Well programs and the director of clinical training at Sophia University. Dr. Robbins received his BA in psychology and philosophy from UCLA in 1989, his MA and PhD in cognitive experimental psychology from UC Santa Barbara in 1996, completed a 2-year National Institute of Mental Health postdoc at UC Irvine in 1999, and a PhD respecialization in clinical psychology in 2002. He has published and given numerous clinical workshops, invited talks, scientific conference presentations, and corporate consultations nationally and internationally on wisdom therapy and its relationships to cognitions, emotions, stress reduction, relationships, workplace effectiveness, coping, emotional intelligence, performance, and organizational consulting. He is a member of the American Psychological Association, the California Psychological Association, and has won many honors and awards. In his spare time, Shani plays racquetball, chess, and go, rollerblades, salsa dances, runs marathons, and watches sunrises. Beautiful. Thank you, being of exquisiteness. We're so grateful to have you. I'm going to pray us into this space and then hand the screen over to Dr. Shani Robbins to take us away into love land. Wise or foolish? I just invite you to be with your breath. Come into your breath in this space, inviting you now. Grateful that we can center into alertness and awareness and aliveness, feeling the abundance of this gathering of one another, grateful to be one with the Spirit, grateful for the miracles that surround us at all times. Taking in this moment to release anything that no longer serves us. We allow ourselves an emptiness that is cleansing, and open, a renewal. We declare this space as holy, and I invoke the Great Spirit to activate with divine intelligence, infusing each and everybody here and beyond with health and wholeness, wisdom, love. So grateful for the souls blessing us, coming into this space with their essence. Just summoning the great spirits, grateful for the ceremony of life and rituals that we have to ground us. This Lunar New Year we just entered into, moving us into a space to receive. Grateful and thankful for Shani and the gift of himself that he so generously, graciously, authentically shares with us. We receive the blessing of his wisdom and his spirit, and we say yes. And I release this word into the great expanse of love, in love, for love, as love, and so it is. Ashe, amen, namaste. Thank you, Dr. Shani Robbins. All yours.
Thank you, Amy. It's great to be here. Thank you for the invitation, and it's great to share the series with all of you because of the excitement. We're talking about relationships today, so it's probably worth starting out with the acknowledgement that of this relationship. That's how it starts, and so the topic doesn't exist in itself. This talk doesn't exist it exists in relationship with all of us here. So I wanted to talk about the titles is a little bit provocative. That calling wise love, love, and foolish love, love is the same as calling a skateboard and a jet plane both transportation. I was trying to find a metaphor that captures just how extreme relationships are from one another, and that's usually ignored, and everything is just called a relationship regardless of a lot of aspects that are developmentally oriented. So I wanted to start out by talking about what development, kind of a short overview of development in my mind, what that looks like, and then to jump into the description of relationships. So in terms of everyday development, let me do a quick shared screen, something that looks like this. The traditional models of development look like this in over 100 years of psychology. So we talk about whether someone is normal or not, right? And, in fact, the whole field of clinical psychology was for most of a century referred to as abnormal psychology. That was the title of the courses in graduate school, abnormal psychology. So when you think about where we are, you can think of extreme psychological disorders, things like psychosis, where there's a phenomenal breakdown of everyday functioning. This person is unable to get out of bed, feed themselves, hold a job, do much of anything. Hallucinations, delusions, schizophrenia as an example. So this is for most of clinical psychology, this is the extreme. Then you have moderate psychological disorders, things like phobias, which I misspelled here. So phobias, anything, fear of heights, fear of flying, fear of closed spaces, fear of social interactions. So that creates moderate dysfunction. So for example, people with social phobia have a hard time going to parties. People with fear of flying have a hard time getting on a plane, and so on. Then you have your mild psychological disorders, mild anxiety, mild stress, things like that. So when we give public presentations, for example, that's where these come in. Most people can relate to this. In fact, if you make a list of most people's fears, fear of public speaking seems to be showing up often as the #1 fear. Fear of death comes in second. So Jerry Seinfeld has a famous quote where he says, you know what the implication of that is, right? That if we're going to go to a funeral, given our fears, we'd rather be in a casket than giving the eulogy. And so, but these are the everyday fears of everyday life most people can relate to. It still holds us back sometimes. In my clinical practice, I've at any point in time 3 or 4 professionals, executives that have a hard time giving public presentations because they break into a sweat, anxiety, and so on, and it's holding them back professionally. And so we work on that. That's the mild version. If it crosses over to more extreme, maybe it gets to moderate version. Then we get from moderate psychological kind of everyday anxieties that still interfere with life, but not too bad, to the so-called normal. And presumably that's the highlight state. Normal is where we all strive to be, and when we don't feel normal, we feel bad about ourselves. And then we get to the clinical models where, yes, the everyday fears and anger, stress, people yelling at each other in traffic and so on, this is the so-called normal. Relationships, people yelling and name calling and then hopefully apologizing afterwards, but there's a decent amount of conflict and stress around all that. And with clinical work, presumably 6 months, a year, 2 years of clinical work in whatever orientation, psychodynamic, existential therapy, or cognitive behavioral therapy, there's less anxiety, less anger, less stress, less depression, and everybody's happy, right? So that's a traditional model. To me, and that's always fallen phenomenally short of being ambitious enough. The field has come to terms with that in the last 20 years. With the advent of the field so-called positive psychology, where there's a focus on developing strengths, not just reducing the negatives. So the field is slowly growing into this direction. But in spiritual traditions and philosophical traditions, thousands of years of development, Buddhist models of enlightenment and so on, have been around this area. So rather than being limited by this as a less ambitious goal, we can switch to something like this as a much more ambitious goal. So when we look at models where normal presumably is the ambitious goal, or therapy is the even super ambitious goal, in a model like this, even the tail end of therapeutic interventions is only halfway there. And so you still have your psychosis, neurosis, normal, and therapy interventions, but now you're moving much past that. So if you look at what things are like at each of these stages, we talked about the hallucinations, delusions of psychosis, phobias, panic and rage of neurosis, normal, so-called the everyday fears, anxieties, anger, not much flexibility. People are still pretty rigid, everyday life. Physical fitness, the United States has got an epidemic of obesity. The majority of Americans are clinically obese. Clinically obese, the definition is 20% above ideal body weight. I can also say it pretty openly and freely because I've had stages in my life where I was considerably overweight, not that far long ago, especially through COVID, where there's a lot of stagnation and there's a lot of challenges. And I'll talk in the future about recent weight loss and so on. Maybe we'll have a future talk called the wisdom diet. That will be interesting. So in the last 3-4 months, I lost about 45 pounds, and there's a lot to say about things about that, but in part because of these ambitions of what's the next thing and how do you keep developing across different stages. So with therapy, presumably we dramatically reduce our fears, anxieties, anger, and so on. We become more flexible in social interactions and colleagues, and we become more physically fit, hopefully with some exercise and nutrition. Then the positive psychology, again, not only do we have much lower fear, anxiety, anger, and so on, but now we're aiming towards strengths. So more physical fitness, more wellness-oriented approaches. You have people in this category that run 5Ks or 10Ks just as a hobby, and other hobbies of music and things like that. So now we're moving in that direction, beyond not just having problems, but what are some positive things we can add to our life? Now that we don't have to put out fires with urgency, what can we do to add quality of life? Then that takes us into a next stage of development, wisdom, where skills like mindfulness, empathy, gratitude are much more practiced on a much more high frequency level. So every day is filled with opportunities to practice, and we embrace those opportunities. Non-attachment becomes an increasing practice, whereas before it's very little of that. There's some of that in positive psychology, very little of that in therapy, almost none of that in so-called normal. And in neurosis or psychosis, it's phenomenally dysfunctional levels. But even in so-called normal levels, there's so little of that in terms of, so imagine wanting to see a movie for weeks or months. You finally get to the theater, you go up to the counter, they say, oh, I'm sorry, it's sold out. Ah, what a disappointment. How disappointing is it? Is it mildly disappointing? Or do we start shouting obscenities like, damn it, that, and do we get riled up? And does that frustration and irritation last for seconds, minutes, hours? That's a gauge of the attachment. Or do we pivot? What does non-attachment look like in that situation? The person says, oh, I'm sorry, it's sold out. Ah, all right, what do you guys want to do? Do you want to see another movie? Or do you want to go to take a walk instead? How quickly can we pivot? How attached were we to that? And that is a simple, mundane example, but that process applies to literally everything. How attached are we to our beliefs, attitudes, goals, identity, sexuality, sense of self? And so we start leaning in this direction where we start questioning that and practicing more non-attachment. Notice something important. As we practice non-attachment, it's important, there's an so-called ego transcendence begins, getting past ourselves. Empathy, compassion are early stages of ego transcendence. Extreme empathy and compassion are later stages of ego transcendence. And so, but if we're going to be at the stage where we're getting over ourselves, we also will have had to have practiced a healthy self. We can't get over ourselves if we don't have a healthy self. There's a word for that. And a person by the name of Wellwood coined the term spiritual bypassing, where we don't really do the heavy lifting of everyday life. What is it? Nutrition, exercise, paying our bills, paying taxes, holding a job, collaborating well with others. That takes a lot of skill, effort, energy, time. Rather than who needs the aggravation of doing all that, right? Why don't I just put on a robe and call everything cosmic, and then I don't have to do anything? See, isn't that cool? That doesn't work too well, as we all know, but we've known people like that, and the so-called spiritual bypassing. So at the end of the day, this is a whole talk unto itself, hours of discussion we can have on this, but there needs to be a healthy self in order to transcend self. And let me just pause at that, and we can talk about that either in the workshop or in future talks. But then we get to so-called models of enlightenment that I'll talk about in a second. But what do relationships look like at each of these stages? So let's look at those. Well, in psychosis, it's highly pathological. If you're hallucinating and having active delusions, having healthy relationships is, well, close to impossible. And so there's a lot of yelling, insults, legal issues, breakups, high dependence, codependence, and things like that. As you get to neuroses, it's still pathological, but less so. Yelling and insults are slightly less. Breakup frequency. Everything you see in psychosis is a moderate version of that. Then when you get to normal, it's a more moderate version of that. The average normal relationship still has yelling and name calling. When I teach classes, I teach a few hundred students every year. I always take a quick vote and I ask, how many people have had relationships? These are undergraduate and graduate students, people in their 20s, mid-20s, late 20s. How many people have had relationships with absolutely no yelling or name calling? And almost universally at every class, out of 30, 40 people, a single person raises their hand. So, which means almost everybody else. And I think that frequency is probably pretty accurate of general population. So things like jealousy. So if a person says, oh, I just, imagine a person coming home after a day saying, oh, I had a wonderful day. By the way, there's this new coworker who's just amazingly beautiful and intelligent and very positive energy. I just love spending time with her or him. And I can't wait to spend more time with them. And imagine if the partner's response to that is, that's wonderful. I'm very happy for you. How many people would say that? Very few to none in the normal stage of development, even in the therapy stage of development. In therapy, psychologists say things like, well, healthy boundaries, don't spend too much time with that person because it crosses boundaries and so on. Trust, you have to trust the person wouldn't spend time with the person. That starts transitioning because here's an interesting question. If we love our partner, do we really not want them to spend time with someone amazing, interesting, positive energy? For lots of reasons. One, even for selfish reasons, they'll bring that positivity back into the relationship, the excitement of that back into the relationship. Number two, don't you want them to optimize their life and experience a lot of good things in life? How long do any of us have to live? And so imagine how you'd feel if you tell them, no, I don't want you to spend time with that person, and a month later they die of COVID. It's like, ah, I should have let them spend time with that person. So is our jealousy and restricting our partners because we think we'll live forever? Is that what's constraining us? Or is it something about our own self-esteem that we don't think we're good enough and they may leave us for another person? So all these fears creep in at these stages, even at the therapy stages, because the therapists themselves, psychologists, therapists, have plenty of fear about their partners leaving them. They haven't jettisoned that fear. And so how can they expect their clients, how can they ask their clients to do something they're not doing themselves? So as we go to positive psychology, these things start becoming less and less dominant. There's less fear, less jealousy, there's more trust, there's more self-esteem, there's more optimism that, first of all, there's realism. The likelihood my partner will leave me is pretty low. But even if they did, yeah, it would be sad, but then I would move on. And maybe that's best for them if they decide to do that. Suddenly, these thoughts start creeping in. But you can't do that when you're fear-based. And then with wisdom skills, all that becomes a lot more advanced, much more flexibility, much more loving, much more intimate, more interdependence. No longer, it's not as much codependence. So the difference between dependence to independence to interdependence are the three stages of development in relationships. Codependence is the worst because if we break up, I'm dependent on you for basic needs. So my fear is very high of whether you leave me. But if we're independent, that's a stage up. We're both independent, generally both having financial stability and roof over our head, food on the table, that kind of thing. So if you leave me, I'll be sad, but I'll still survive. The next stage, the most advanced stage, is interdependence. Yeah, if you leave, I'll survive. But more important than that, I'd love to coordinate well with you with a lot of trust and openness. So you do certain things, I'll do certain things. We'll both coordinate together and we'll both enhance our lives. And we don't have to watch our backs because I trust your judgment and I trust that you'll do what you said you'll do. Interdependence. So it takes a lot of skill to do that. And then if we look at the final stage, that I don't pretend to understand what it is, but from a lot of reading of Eastern Western philosophies and psychologies, it seems to have some of these characteristics. Selflessness. So selfishness is very dominant in early stages, and we get to less and less selfish. So the arrow is pointing in that direction. Enlightenment, almost selflessness, whatever that even means, right? Ego transcendence. So rather than being mostly focused on ourselves, we focus on others as well. Balance between life and work and other things. Non-attachment, again, it manifests and it shows up as flexibility. Bliss, awe, start dominating our everyday life. As we look around, we don't look at the outside world and say, what's life done for me lately? We look at a tree and are amazed. We look at the sky and don't take it for granted. And there's unity, integration and connectedness between different parts of ourselves with a lot of parts of the world. But the unity increases dramatically. Wellness has already been practiced for years. So nutrition, exercise, taking care of ourselves, washing clothes, not having dishes pile up, seems like small things, but it all adds up. And so if we have good practices of nutrition, exercise, cleanliness, and so on, we don't have to pay attention to those anymore. It's automatic. The definition of automaticity is that attention, which is a limited capacity resource, no longer has to be paid for that. So now we can take our attention and put it on other things, like the wellness of others, for example. So empathy and compassion go up. So it's all interconnected. And then a whole other talk is how mystical experiences start emerging from advanced stages of development. And just to say the short version of that, the way I look at it is it's a signal to noise ratio. That when fear is like shouting, when inside our mind we're shouting, we can't hear whispers across the room. And nature has a lot of whispers. And so things like intuition or even ESP kind of skills, who knows what those are, precognition and so on. There's a whole science of that called transpersonal psychology, where it's really weird. We seem to be able to somehow know things before they happen sometimes. Some people are better at it than others. And evolutionarily, you can understand why that would be adaptive. If you know a threat is coming a second before it comes, that could be pretty adaptive for survival. So it's not huge effects, but there's little ones here and there that are just strange that we don't understand yet, and they seem to accompany advanced stages of development. So all this said, with regards to development, let's bring all this now to love and relationships. And so let's start with love. And one of my favorite quotes, I think I've probably shown this slide in a few years ago, but and by the way, in terms of what relationships are like, when you approach models of enlightenment, it's not just extreme love for your partner, it's extreme love for all beings, compassion for all beings. So love for just a partner now it's still there, but it's not enough. It seems too small to be all of it. And the ratios I was talking about is the ratio of self to others. And so that keeps changing. So when we're 10, 15, 20, it's all about us, not much about others. My identity, my achievement, my career, my health, and so on. As we traverse these stages, fear and survival needs and concerns go down because we're already pretty good at it. And so we don't have to worry about it, and concerns for others goes up. So this is a transition of self to others that happens over a lifetime that embraces development. When it doesn't, and high focus on self is still there when we're 50, 60, or 70, it's not pretty, right? Because a lot of our abilities go down, strength, mental, physical. And if we're still so overly focused on ourselves and looking good and being strong, we're going to be very disappointed when we're 70 or 80. So that's a short version of those things. This is the quote I was mentioning. A physician once said, the best medicine for humans is love. Someone asked, what if it doesn't work? He smiled and said, increase the dose. So when we're talking about this ambitious developmental model and what the implications are, I wanted to bring the screen to you. I tried to put this on a single screen and say, what does it look like? What does it take for that kind of development for a relationship to have those kinds of features? The reason it's so difficult to describe that is because and I'm sticking, let's say for now, the focus is romantic relationships, but it can be applied to any relationship. But in romantic relationship, what does it take to have an amazing romantic relationship? The reason it's so challenging and so difficult to pin down is in part because it's not just one relationship. You actually have a dozen relationships. So let me do a screen for a second and show you what I mean by that. So when you have a relationship, if this person over here is having a relationship with this person over here, of course, the empathy and compassion between them is essential, is one of the most important aspects of that dual relationship between those two, empathy and compassion between those two, the dyad relationship. But what about the relationship to ourselves? So this person has a relationship to themselves, the emotional intelligence. Are they aware when they get stressed? Are they aware when they get angry? Can they regulate their stress and anger can this person regulate their stress and anger before they even talk to this person? Or do they spill all the anger onto that person? So the relationship to ourselves, as Amy was pointing out, introspection, self-awareness, know thyself, that's a whole separate relationship that we have with ourselves. And how good and skillful and positive is that relationship to self? Or do we call ourselves jerks and so on, low self-esteem? There's a joke of, how do you could tell someone has low self-esteem? they have the following entry: Dear Diary, sorry to bother you again. It's not a good sign. So our relationship with ourselves, so we're already talking about now 3 relationships, each of the 2 people's relationship to themselves and the relationship to each other. But if you start scrolling down, you notice that there's also nature. There's the world, there's nature around us, there's the world at large, there's the cosmos, the universe as a whole, and who knows what all the laws of nature and how many dimensions and all of that. So each of the 2 people has a relationship to nature. That's 2 more relationships. Then within our world, we've got social relationships to other people, friends. That's social intelligence, social relationships. Those are 2 more relationships. We've got realism in life and everyday functioning, jobs, careers, relationship to our work, to our business, to our paying bills, all the other realisms of everyday life. Those are 2 more relationships. Because again, what happens if person 1 has a really dysfunctional relationships to the world, the person 2 doesn't? It's not like the love between them is somehow now going to be phenomenally clean, right? If a person comes home every day incredibly frustrated and angry that the world wronged them in some way or cheated them in some way, or they feel less than in some way with their colleagues or friends, or the job doesn't give them much meaning, what is that going to do to the romantic relationship, right? There's going to be a lot of negativity, complaining, toxic energy, and that's going to spill out to everything, including the romantic relationship. So our relationships to our social connections, having a few good friends is essential in life, no matter how good your partner can be, you know, the world's greatest human being, but the most enlightened human being. But if you don't have a good relationship to the rest of the world, at least with a couple of close friends that are reliable, that you can count on, that you can open up to, that you can trust, then it's going to derail all relationships, including romantic relationships. And then including your career and job, and where not everybody has to have a career or work or job, but doing something, even if it's volunteering in life, having some relationship with the outside world where you're contributing. So those relationships are all going to be essential. So if you're doing the math, we're already talking about, you know, a dozen or 15 relationships right there. And then, of course, let's look at things like nutrition, exercise, meditation, having pets, sleep, and we can go on and a few more things too, but just to give a sense, we have relationships to all of these. So even if you have a great job, even if you have cosmic awareness in life, even if you have pretty good friends, if you only got 2 hours of sleep last night, all bets are off, right? Nothing is working. And so you can have a Ferrari. I like to, you know, the metaphor is you can have a Ferrari in your driveway, but if it's got 3 wheels, you're not going anywhere. And any one of these is a wheel on our wellness in life and in our wellness in our romantic relationship. Any one of these can derail it. If nutrition is off, even if we exercise and meditate and get good sleep and have friends, if we're consuming 4,000 calories a day, we'll be 100 to 200 pounds overweight in 10 years. And diabetes is next, and heart condition, hypertension, and cardiovascular disease is around the corner. So if we're in a hospital with cardiovascular disease, having good friends is not going to help much. They'll visit us in the hospital, but that's about all they can do. So you see where all this is going. If you really, really want to have an amazing relationship, you can't just say, I love you. That's nice to feel love and be able to feel love, but what love even is dependent in part on all of this. The love we feel for someone, if we have low fear, is a very different love than if we have very high fear. If fear is high and we don't think we're good enough, the love we feel for someone is this. It's desperate. Oh, please don't go. I'll die without you. How many songs say that? You know, the dysfunctionality of love songs, right, versus wise songs. We did that a couple of years ago. It might be worth revisiting at some point. But phrases like "I'll die without you" is supposed to be romantic. It's like, oh my God, that's the self-esteem and the conflict that revolve around that codependent relationship are going to be phenomenal. So it's not going to be pretty. And so as opposed to for many years now, decades, I told my partners, I don't need you, I want you. That I could survive without you in life, but I really, really want to do life with you. That to me seems a lot healthier. I'm not sure what the healthier version after that is, but at least not being codependent out of fear. And so now if we're getting sleep, if fear is low, if exercise is high and we're feeling stronger, if we don't get winded just by walking up the stairs, if nutrition is relatively healthy, our intuition increases, our social intelligence towards others, empathy goes up, mindfulness goes up, and all the wisdom skills do this. They all enhance each other. If fear is down, I can be more present because anxiety loves the future. So my attention is now present, so mindfulness goes up. If mindfulness goes up, I'm now mindful in the room. I'm aware of what you're doing, what you're feeling. Empathy is increasing. If empathy increases and I'm aware of you, I'm less concerned for a moment about me. So ego transcendence starts increasing. All these skills are working in unison and they can't work without all of these things. So we're talking about dozens of relationships with nature, with food, with sleep, with others, with our work, with life in general, with our pets. They're all interacting to produce the person that we're offering for a romantic relationship. And if any one of these is dysfunctional, it's much, much harder for all of these plates to be spinning. A lot of attention, work, and intention has to go into this. Without that, it's very easy for a plate to stop spinning and that plate breaks. And now we have a Ferrari with 3 wheels that's not going anywhere. And so when we're asking, what does it mean to have a good relationship, a good marriage? And people say, oh, it's really mysterious, nobody knows. Yeah, we do know. Good sleep, good nutrition, exercise, low fear, do the heavy lifting of identifying the thoughts that are related to our fears. Make sure you find and stay connected to good friends for social support. Look for your passions in life to contribute to work and career in service of others, and that fulfills yourself with meaning. And do all of that all the time. So if the time is somehow missing, find balance, work on finding more balance on all of those. And when that happens, you'll feel a lot healthier. You'll keep moving in this developmental direction and you'll offer all of that to a relationship. And the hope is that whoever you invite to be in relationship with, that they are doing the same. And if they are, it's a jet plane. If they're not, you're both trying to ride skateboards across the Alps. It's not going to go well. So let me just stop there and thank you for your time. There's the alternatives for these things usually are not pretty. They're usually avoidance, usually have to do with affairs. Even in monogamous relationship, people are dysfunctionally lying to each other, and in those ways you can have an honest, open relationship where you don't have to lie to people to have other relationships. But there's a fun joke with I'll finish with this. So a guy's having a lot of relationship conflicts, and his friend, who's usually a pretty shallow guy and kind of known as a womanizer, is sitting there listening to his friend complain about things, and says, and he's giving him this what seems like pretty deep advice. He says, you need to find a woman that loves you. This is a womanizer talking. You need to find a woman that loves you, someone who accepts your flaws, someone who is open to learning, a woman with a sense of humor. And his friend who's distraught says, wow, for someone who's been pretty shallow, that's pretty surprisingly deep advice. Thank you. And his friend says, yeah, you're welcome. Of course, the tricky part is making sure all these women don't bump into each other. So it's like, oh, I was so close. So it is difficult to find people who do all of this, just pure probability, because any one of these skills takes time and energy to do it all, takes a lot of time and energy. But that's exactly why great relationships are so rare. It just takes a lot of time and skill and energy, and people generally don't want to put in that time. It's just like being fit. Being one of these 24 relationships that feed into a romantic relationship and all other relationships. And by the way, there's feedback between that too, the romantic relationship to all these other relationships. If you're very happy at home, you're bringing that happiness to work, to productivity, to social relationships. So you're connecting with friends, you're not spending 90% of your time with your friends complaining about your spouse. You're spending your time with your friends, connecting with your friends. And so everything improves from that. So I'll finish with that, and then we can invite you to the workshop. We can talk about any of these, any questions on any of this. And by the way, just as a teaser for the workshop, I'm trying to get my partner, Natalia, to join us for the workshop. So if you have any questions for her and you want to know what my relationship is like, given what I think about all this, you can feel free to ask her anything you want. So there's a teaser for the workshop. We'll see if she's up for it.
Well, I hope she is. I love Natalia. Okay, so let's stop share, or do you have to do that, Shani?
Yes.
I do know it's on your side. Wow. Well, I know we have a lot of comments, gratitude for the information. It seems it's so nice sort of to have a visual, right, of okay, this is what it looks like, and now like let's embody it. That's the that's the next part, right? I just love so much of what came through you today. I always do. What did you say? I like that we really talked about that we really have dozens of relationships because we have a relationship with everything, right? Our nutrition, our pets, our meditation practice, all of it is a relationship. And then I like how you put it, well, all of these relationships come together to be the person we can offer to another. And that's the jet plane versus a skateboard. Perfect. Yeah. There is a difference. Yes.
Mm.
So I know we're going into, oh, did I not change us to gallery? I didn't. I just jumped right back in. I'm glad I looked at my phone. Hi, everybody. Erica said, thank you for sharing this abundant information. Carol was saying, this is so incredibly profound and powerful and timely. Thank you so much. Spiritual bypassing. Wow. Yeah. I think I jotted that one down. Was really funny. I laughed. Why don't I just put on a robe and call myself cosmic? Right. You have to live it. Yeah.
Mm.
Carol said, I love this wisdom and enlightenment. Wow. This is powerful. Yes, I like this too. Pivot. How quickly can we pivot? Well, this is what I suggest. We're going to take a little break to hydrate and nourish ourselves because we have a great relationship with our nutrition and our bodies. And then we're going to come back to the workshop in a little less than 20 minutes, actually. And hopefully we'll have Natalia there. If not, we have Shani, and this is our wisdom expert, relationship expert, and we can ask questions and dive a little deeper into all of this because it is really such a full conversation. And I love that we went a little deeper than the surface. So we definitely didn't just scratch the surface here. We covered some really, really important pieces of what it means to have a healthy relationship. Not only what it means, what it requires really to be in
Right.
relationship. Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's not small. It's
Mm.
not small. I thought it was a comment coming in. Wowie wow. Well, I am so deeply grateful for you, Shani, and the way that you present information to us. I like information, so so I am definitely one that appreciates. I was just waiting to see if there were any comments coming in. I don't know if my feed was a little slow because I know typically when you're here we have lots of thoughts, lots of questions, and of course everybody might just be digesting. That was also a lot. I was jotting down so much too. I like to revisit the wisdom diet at some point in the future and What were you saying here? To get over, I have to read my notes. We have to have a healthy self. Yes, you have to have a healthy self to transcend, to get over ourselves, as you said.
That's right.
That's important.
Yep.
It was an important point you made there. Okay, everybody. So we are going to take our little break so that we can come back onto our Zoom discussion. Now, remember, that's on a link that is on our homepage, brentwoodilc.org. I'm also going to drop it here in the chat, so you can pop right in here from Facebook and join us. Join us there in just 15 minutes, less than 15 minutes. Give yourself a minute to acclimate to the Zoom room. And we'll see you back there. So grateful for you, Shani, always to bring your heart and your soul. And I love your joke. You know, we can always depend on Shani for a good joke. It's gonna either begin us with a big laugh or end us with close us out with a big laugh. So
I need to add humor, I think, as one of those: sleep, nutrition, humor. I think it's an important piece in life in general and relationships in particular. So let's
yes,
add
I
humor to
agree.
the list. Yeah.
I agree with that. I do. Yeah, that's a good one. Good one. Okay, everybody, if you feel mentally, emotionally, spiritually refreshed, restored, revitalized, remember that we operate completely, totally on your donations and contributions, which we are so deeply grateful for. And you can find out how to share with us an energetic exchange on our website, brentwoodilc.org, on our giving page. And we're grateful for all of that energetic exchange that we share. Thank you, because it allows us to be here, to keep inspiring, to keep sharing messages from Dr. Shani Robbins. Well, thank you, everybody. We will see you in just a few minutes in our Zoom room for the workshop, which is going to be a deep dive into this discussion. Before we leave, I'm going to share the screen with you, and we are going to close with our prayer of divine awakening. So I invite you to feel into this, speak this into being, into your life. Oh, did it show up? Oh, my screen went kind of doodle, but here it is. It's a new day, a beautiful day, a new beginning. I embrace this day with new eyes, an open heart, and expansive mind. I choose my vibrational frequency deliberately and consciously, harmonizing with life's events. I am receptive to source energy, divine guidance and wisdom available to me at all times. I commit to serve unconditional love fully and completely. I move forward in a state of appreciation and extension of the one magnificent power and presence. I am sovereign, whole, and free, claiming dominion over my life as I go in peace and awaken to my divinity. And so it is. Ashe, namaste, beloveds. We are so grateful to be together, and I will see you in a few minutes. We will see you in a few minutes. Thank you, Dr. Shani Robbins. We're so grateful. Thank
Of
you.
course. See you in a few minutes. Bye-bye.